our next session. We have Graylin Kim from the New York State Senate, and he's going to talk about indexing legislation with Lucene.
Okay, so hi, I am Graylin Kim, and I just recently, in May actually, graduated from RPI and started working at the Senate. And I don't know, were any of you around when my boss Ken was giving his talk about some of our software projects earlier today? Okay, so we'll start there then. So I'm talking about open legislation, Lucene, and what we focus on, I guess, can vary based on what you're interested in. Open legislation is a legislative research information service that we provide to the public at the Senate that allows you to browse, search, share, whatever legislative information from the Senate. And so when we say legislative information, at current time we don't mean the laws, so you can't find the laws that are on the books, but you can find the bills that are being proposed to modify those laws and various different artifacts around that cycle. So meetings, agendas, calendars, votes, things like that. And it also has all that information for the Assembly as well, just as a bonus. So we run the service at the Senate, and I guess the goal of this talk is to introduce, well, how many people are familiar with what Lucene is and does? Okay, 2, 3, okay, so the goal is first going to be, I guess, give people some idea of what Lucene does, how it works, and then to show how really simple such powerful tools like Lucene can make a service like this. So here's some. Before we get started, though, here are some example queries that this allows us to fill, and I'll have to apologize for the lack of user friendliness. These strings are literally what you would put inside this search box. The service, first and foremost, is an API layer that feeds our nysenate.gov site and our internal CRM systems. So almost all the work has gone into making the system work for those things. And then eventually, as we get more staff and other projects die down, we're going to hopefully work on the interface so that you don't need to be able to do Boolean logic queries to find things that you're looking for. So this is the capability that Lucene gives us. So we can find all the bills sponsored by McDonald. We can find all the bills that, yes?
Is that URL, the URL, you're doing the URL if you want to access this functionality?
Oh, no. So the website, if you'd like to visit it, is http open.nysenate.gov/legislation. If you're on a tablet, I'll have to apologize for the mobile interface. It's basically the...
What's the Assembly's version of it?
The Assembly's version of it, I couldn't tell you what, if anything, the Assembly in particular provides for this. The two legislative bodies, the Senate and the Assembly, both use the same bill drafting service called LRS, Legislative Research Service, and I cannot think of the URL off the top of my head, but they also provide all of this information. And they're running off of a mainframe system. And so actually what happened historically is that we needed this information to power our applications, and we needed new features, and they just, with their system, with their staff, it was before my time, but they didn't want to provide that for us. So what they did do was they gave us a data feed, and we turned that data feed into this service, which powers our applications. But for comparison, there's another site, and I can point you to that afterwards as well. So anyway, just some basic queries. The second one finds all bills that are referencing something starting with health. That's like healthcare and health and healthy and what have you. I have no access to internet, but I do have this running locally, so we can try some of these. So here's a listing of all the bills that are related to that in one way or another in some of the fields. And then we can find bills that were sponsored by Leslie and had votes that McDonald voted yes on, for instance. So we have several different facets to the information. We can find all the meetings for the finance committee, for instance. So just some of the things you can do. There is a complete API documentation at the URL given there. It's produced with the awesome Sphinx project. It's a documentation tool that I cannot say enough good things about. It's amazing. And I guess I'll just leave that one there. So the other half of this is Lucene. So that's our open legislation service. And I'll just tell you that we do almost no work. Lucene does virtually everything for us. And so we're gonna see a little bit about how we can use Lucene for other applications. Similarly cool. So just to give an overview of how Lucene works, and we can go into more details as people have questions. I'm going to go through a really short example script that creates a Lucene database, adds a couple documents, and runs a search. And in the process, we'll go through some of the more fine-grained aspects of it. But fundamentally, it's document-based data storage. So you don't store, it's not relational in the way of SQL. It's you've got documents, and documents are comprised of fields, and those fields have values, and that's what you're indexing. To give an example of this, for instance, you might have in a relational database, you might have bills are one table, and then actions on those bills might be in another table, and then votes on those bills might be in another table. In Lucene, and then it would be like a one-to-many for each of them, because the bill has actions and the bill has votes. In Lucene, you would just embed those documents inside of the bill, because they belong to the bill, so they're part of that document. And so that's just kind of how they work. You need to, it has certain advantages in simplicity of using it and working with it, and it has definite disadvantages in flexibility. There's no question that being able to determine your access path at runtime with SQL is great, but sometimes it's more than you can. And so in this case, the needs are very simple. So documents are comprised of fields. So I have my bill document, and my bill has a current committee. It's currently in the finance committee. So that's a current committee field, and it's got a value of finance. I've got a full text field, and that's got the full, the budget bill, 600 pages of text. And that's the value for that. And so how Lucene makes this fast is they take those fields, and then they take the values of those things, like for instance the full bill text, and they run them through analyzers, which can get really complicated, but luckily they supply you with ones that should fit most of your needs. So for instance, the standard analyzer, and the goal here is to split them into tokens. So like when you say, bill text, healthcare, healthcare is the token that you're looking for, and the goal of the analyzer is to split the bill text into all of the relevant tokens that someone might be looking for. And so the default, the default tokenizer for English, it does a lot of things, but it'll remove not meaningless words, but they call them stop words, like to, be, the, and things that would otherwise kind of pollute the data, and then it basically splits it up by space, and there you go. So each of those tokens then gets paired with the field to form sort of a term. So when you write your queries, you basically just specify terms. So when I say full text healthcare, I'm saying that I want to find documents that have the term, with the field build text and the token of healthcare. And so what it does is it stores these terms in an inverted index. So instead of saying, instead of starting from the bills and looking for the terms, you look for the terms and you find the bills from it. So a really simplistic way of thinking about that is, if you had like a CSV or something, every line, the first field is the value, the term, like healthcare, and then after it's a comma-separated list of every bill that contains that term, maybe with the weighted value or something. And what it's doing is it's creating this index whereby every single term in every single field in every single document has an entry, and then it moves. So, and because everything is virtually an exact match, and probably for a lot of other technical reasons I don't fully understand, that structure allows it to find your documents very quickly. I mean, we searched, and this is just on my local machine, which is pretty good but not super powerful. And we searched through all the legislation for anything that started with health and had anything else after it, and it took a small fraction of a second. So it's definitely cool like that. And the Senate puts through way more bills than legislation than it probably should. So it's doing something. But so at a high level, that's how Lucene works. You supply documents. Those documents, you supply fields that identify various facets of that document, things that you want to be able to search by. Then those values get analyzed into tokens, and then those tokens get paired up and put into an inverted index that allows you to sort of triangulate the files that you're looking for. And it's very cool in that it's got tons of super fancy algorithms for doing filtering and caching and sorting and relevance matching. And I'm not an expert with Lucene, so I couldn't tell you how they do some of those things, but it works very well. And they have an interface layer where you can modify those things to match your specific search needs.